I took a completely broken $1 PC and turned it into this. But the real question is, how well can it actually play games? I'll show you in just a second. Before that, let me explain how we even got here. I've already bought a $5 PC, then a $3 PC, and I genuinely thought that was as cheap as it could possibly get. But then, I stumbled across something even crazier. A PC that cost just $1. And honestly, in today's world, a $1 PC sounds like a fairy tale. Except, this fairy tale is actually real. So today, let's dive deep into this machine and see what it took to upgrade a $1 broken PC into something that might, just maybe, be playable. So this right here is an HP ProDesk 600G1SFF. From the outside, it still looks pretty clean and well kept. But whether the hardware inside is still intact, that's a whole different story. So the next step is obvious. Let's open up the side panel and see what's inside. Oh boy, on inside there's literally nothing left, just the power supply and the motherboard. Luckily there is still a CPU cooler, but there isn't a single stick of RAM in here. Honestly, with how expensive RAM is right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the seller pulled it out before selling this thing. But the big question is there actually a CPU under that cooler? Let's find out. And nope, there's no CPU at all. Taking a closer look, the motherboard uses LGA 1150. If it's still alive, I really can't complain too much. So this is what my $1 gets me? Well, not exactly. If the motherboard and the power supply still work, that alone already makes this a pretty good deal in my book. But when I took a closer look, I noticed something really concerning. One of the contact pins in the CPU socket is broken. Yeah, that definitely made me nervous. The only way to know if the board is still usable is to drop a CPU in and test it. But to be honest, there's no way I'm risking an expensive CPU on this motherboard. If something goes wrong, it could easily take the CPU with it. So instead, I'm going to use a cheap test CPU just to see if the board can post. And I'll pair it with a single 8GB stick of RAM. Let's see if this thing still has a pulse. On the very first power on, the system came to life instantly. The power supply seems to be working just fine. But something felt off. There was no display output at all. No beep codes, no keyboard lights, nothing. I started to suspect the RAM slot. Dust buildup could easily cause poor contact. So I grabbed a small brush and carefully cleaned the RAM contacts in the slot, really hoping this thing wasn't a completely dead PC and that I didn't just get scammed. In the end, nothing changed, until suddenly the power supply started screaming like a tiny jet engine. At that point, I decided to remove the CPU cooler and check whether the CPU was actually doing anything, mainly by feeling for heat. And yeah, the CPU was definitely warming up, which means there's a very high chance it's still functioning normally. I tried every single RAM slot, one by one, but the system just refused to come back to life. And that's where things get really confusing. At this point, I'm left with a big question, and honestly, I don't have the answer yet. It looks like this is beyond a simple fix, and I'll probably need help from someone with more advanced motherboard repair experience. So if I want to turn this thing into a proper gaming PC, there's really only one way to do it. I'm going to take a working motherboard from one of my Dell Optiplex systems and swap it into this case. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. The HP ProDesk case has way more internal space compared to the Optiplex. That extra room gives me a huge advantage because now I can install a full-size GPU without being limited to low-profile cards. The first step is to remove everything from inside the case. Luckily, I already have some of the strongest parts ready. Everything needed to bring a budget gaming beast to life. I have to say, the internal design is actually pretty clean and well thought out. The hard drive tray opens and closes like a little door, which is a really nice touch. The motherboard, though, it looks like it's been running for a long time in a not-so-clean environment. It's pretty filthy. If it still worked, it would definitely deserve a proper spa day. But unfortunately, that's probably not happening. To save some time, I had already removed the motherboard from my Dell Optiplex earlier. This board also uses an LGA 1150 socket. Once I tried fitting it into the case, I immediately ran into a few issues. The I/O shield didn't line up at all with the motherboard I was swapping in. So, out came the cutting tool. I decided to cut the I/O section completely, and surprisingly, the result fit pretty well. However, there was another problem. The CPU cooler mounting base was sticking up a bit too high, which meant the motherboard wasn't sitting perfectly flat. So I carefully applied a bit of gentle pressure to bend it down slightly. And finally, I was able to place the motherboard securely and safely into the case. For this socket, I came prepared with one of the strongest CPUs available, the Intel Core i7-4790. Honestly, the only thing above it is the K version. It packs 4 cores and 8 threads with a base clock of 3.6 GHz and a boost up to 4.0 GHz. With a TDP of just 84 watts, I'm totally comfortable running it on the stock Intel cooler. And that wraps up the CPU side of things. Next up, the part I really had to think about carefully, the GPU. Looking at the lower section of the case, there's actually enough room for a full-size graphics card. So I decided to use a PCIe X16 riser cable, routing it downward to connect a larger GPU. To secure everything in place, I used screws to firmly mount the riser bracket. This step definitely requires some patience and precision, and just like that, the hardest part of the upgrade is done. For the GPU, I'm going with an RTX 3050. 6 GB, probably the most powerful card my 240-watt power supply can realistically handle. Now, this build is starting to look serious. For ROM, I equipped this build with 16 GB, running in dual channel mode. As for the power supply, I originally planned to keep using the one that came with this $1 PC. But of course, that's where the problem started. The motherboard requires an 8-pin CPU power connector, while this power supply only has a 6-pin. So I had no choice but to buy a 6 to 8-pin adapter. And that's when the tragedy began. No matter what I tried, the system just would not power on with this PSU and motherboard combo. At first I thought the adapter cable was faulty, but honestly I was already exhausted from testing at that point. So I decided to take the easy and reliable route and just use the original Dell Optiplex power supply, the same system I took the motherboard from. I planned to remove the hard drive cage and place the power supply there instead. But when I dropped it in, everything fit perfectly, almost like the case was made for it. To connect the power cable, I removed one of the front hard drive bay covers and routed the power cable through there to supply power. Aesthetically, it's not the cleanest solution, but in terms of convenience, it's a solid 10 out of 10. And most importantly, I didn't have to cut or permanently modify the case. The storage installation was much simpler. I didn't run into any major issues connecting the drives. The power cables were then connected to the motherboard and the case's power button. And just like that, the build is complete. A true gaming monster. Unfortunately, from the original $1 PC, the only part I could still use was the case. But that's fine. Now comes the most important moment. Will it post? And yes, it does. This upgrade process was definitely difficult and more expensive than expected, but now it's time to see how this system actually performs in games. In CS2, running on high settings at Full HD, the game averages around 70 FPS, and it stays stable throughout the entire match. When I keep the same settings and bump the resolution up to 1440p, FPS drops slightly to around 60, but the experience is still very smooth. For this game, you can play comfortably, even if you're trying hard and taking it seriously. And if you want even higher FPS, you can always lower the settings a bit to get an even smoother experience. In FORTNINE at HD resolution with high settings, the game runs at around 80 frames per second. During intense fights, it can dip to about 60 frames per second, but it's still smooth enough to handle fast reactions without any issues. Moving on to GTA 5. At Full HD on high settings, FPS sits at around 65. When I bump the resolution up to 1440p, performance doesn't drop by much, staying stable at around 55 FPS. Overall, both games are very playable with this setup. The final game is Minecraft. At Full HD with the render distance set to just 2 chunks, FPS shoots past 600 frames per second. When I increase the render distance to 8 chunks and 1440p resolution, performance drops quite a bit, landing at around 450 FPS. With the Bliss shader enabled at 8 chunks and 1440p high resolution, frames per second falls to about 45. Dropping the resolution back down to Full HD brings it up to around 60 frames per second, which is still very playable. So, in the end, after buying a PC for just $1, all I really got was the case. Kind of disappointing, but hey, I took the motherboard in for repair, so hopefully it can still be saved. Buying used hardware is always a gamble, but for $1, I really can't complain too much. Thanks a lot for watching the entire video, and I'll see you in the next one.